Hello, 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 this is Phil, or if you prefer, Steel City 321 PB. This envelope arrived earlier today. I have a good idea what it contains. My British Vintage Wireless Society Autumn/Winter bulletin, along with a few goodies. I got a BVWS calendar for 2014. You can see all of this. Looks really good. Yeah, brilliant. That will replace the old one, of course. And yes, there's plenty to read. A few other goodies, and of various swap meets and other meetings that are upcoming, and of course my subscription form for 2014. In the meantime, the Regentone chassis is going to perform a striptease for you all.
Always begin by removing all the valves. It's a good idea to separate them from the rest of the other components to avoid damage. Once the valves are safely out of the way, I begin by removing the bulkier components, such as the mains transformer. Before going ahead, I produce a simple sketch, carefully noting where each wire is connected before disconnecting it. It does not need to be artistic. Accuracy is more important. Where possible, have a decent sized receptacle to hand to put all your loose components in. Also, take as many photographs of the chassis as possible. They will be very useful later. Before liberating the audio output transformer, I carefully produced a simple sketch, just as I did above, and carefully noted the colour of each wire and where it was connected underside the chassis. The dial will be next. I don't know whether you can see it, but the cursor is trapped between the back reflector plate and the rear side of the dial, so I shall have to be very careful here. As you can see, the dial, lamps, cursor and back reflector plate assembly has now been liberated from the chassis. I shall wrap this glass dial in newspaper and store it safely inside the box that contains all the valves. There are two components I shall not be reconnecting to this chassis. One of them is this smoothing capacitor here. I shall blank this all off here where that capacitor was once connected, and the other component is this lamp holder here. Its purpose was to illuminate the record player deck that was once housed below this chassis. Now it's the turn of the tuner capacitor. Before I begin unsoldering anything, I shall unsolder the ground wires that are secured to deck. My 60-watt soldering iron here is sufficiently hot enough. Let's have a look. Yep. You know, Arkansas John usually makes me laugh. He picked up a 25-watt soldering iron recently from a flea market for a few cents. Good on you, John. If it works, why not? I've got to admit I haven't bought a new soldering iron in best part of 40 years. I haven't had to do. We've also either had them supplied to us or I too have picked them up at flea markets. So right, I'll just that's here. Right. Whilst I've got this large soldering iron out, I shall go round and take off all the rest of the soldered tags. So I shall do that and I shall be back in a moment. Now that concludes the liberation of the tuning capacitor. I shall not take it to pieces as I have done in the past. It is a very fiddly operation to get them back together and working as they should do. The rubber grommets are surprisingly in decent condition. I may reuse those. It all depends on how the mood takes me. One thing is for sure, I'll definitely need some new drive cord. The next wee job was to note how both IFT transformers were wired in. When it is time for reconstruction, wiring them back correctly is very important. Get it wrong and the radio will not work. Period. Here I have done them and they correspond with the underside of this radio chassis here. Now take your time to do at least a reasonably good job at recording the wiring, colours and components, like I have done here. This has to be done correctly, so once again, take your time. Both IFT cans will be stored alongside the valves and the dial glass. There, I hope they will be safe. There are various methods of removing eye rivets that secure such things as valve bases, aerial sockets, solder tag strips, etc. I'll demonstrate how I personally remove eye rivets. Here I'll be using a 6.5mm bit. Normally I use a hand drill, but on this occasion, purely for speed, I have decided to use an electric drill. When the eye rivet begins spinning, I tilt the drill sufficiently to re-grab the top of the eye rivet. I do not apply too much pressure. Once the eye rivet is countersunk, I use a pair of side cutters to remove what is left of the top of the eye rivet. I then push it through and that makes a nice clean job. Right, I shall remove the rest of them at my leisure, backing a bit. Now that I've removed this lot from the deck or chassis, I will store it safely in a separate receptacle. I had to show this chassis from the top as it was objecting to its backside being exposed.
Now, I may have given some of you the impression I went through this chassis, stripping it down, like a dose of salts. In effect, it has taken me around 2.5 hours from start to finish. Now, part 3. I will be removing grime and surface rust from this chassis and applying coats of spray paint. So, until then, this is Phil saying 73s to each and every one of you.